Well, hello, everybody. Today we have another treat. We have one of our key leaders in our community, Dr. Ashish Vaidya, president of Northern Kentucky University. Welcome, Doctor. Appreciate you giving us some time today.
Happy to be here, Judge Knochelmann. Delighted.
Thank you. Well, never would have thought 2 years ago that you'd be sitting here in 2020 having to deal with the campus being nearly shut down or, having the students not be in normal educational models. Maybe you can just update the community on this past 6 to 8 weeks, the kind of changes you've had to implement and to keep the students learning.
Sure, absolutely. Yes. I mean, we would never have imagined this type of situation. I think I can safely say I've dealt with a few other crises in my professional experience, but this is totally unprecedented. But I think it did teach us a lot of valuable lessons. So as you know, in March, of course, we had to deal with the full brunt of it. Almost right around our spring break time. So in fact, a bit of a break because it allowed us to sort of really pivot and make some quick decisions that had to be made at that time. We extended spring break by an extra week and we said, yep, all instruction will go to an online format. Roughly a third of our classes were online anyway. So in a way, it wasn't 100% move, but nonetheless, quite a big change in terms of changing all that. So the first few weeks were really spent on trying to understand all the key issues we had to do, right? Getting students moved out of housing and dorms, making sure that the refunds were being processed, making sure faculty had support systems, things like Zoom. I mean, my goodness, making sure that we had everyone up to speed on how do we engage with our students in this way. And of course, the rest of the operations. I mean, the university has to keep going and make sure that there's wondering about employees and how to maintain their safety. So just a lot of different things that had to be taken care of really in real time because things were changing every minute.
And you speak to the issue of on-campus students. You've also had international students. One of the things you've been working on since you've been there is to elevate that as internationally. And you had people who couldn't just go home down the street or across the river to Ohio. You had to deal with that as well.
Right, and I think, Judge, that's a very good point. I mean, we made a conscious effort from the very beginning to really focus on keeping the students in front and center with respect to any decisions that we had to make. And so when it came to housing, obviously we said to our students, right now with the way things are, we're encouraging all of you to go back to your home. But if you are in a position, and it applies not just to our international students, by the way, we have some students who have challenges and really no home to go to. And we said, we will make accommodations for you. So even now, we have roughly about 80 students who are staying on campus. We've made sure that they get their meals, even if it's to go, and making sure we take care of them. And the idea that we can't just abandon our students at this time. And if there's no other place for them to go, we'll find a way to keep them. We have a skeletal crew in housing to make sure that they're taken care of. Our food pantry, Fuel NKU, in partnership with Kroger, that never shut down operations. We wanted to make sure that students, in terms of need, was still able to come by and pick up some much needed food and or other requirements that they had.
And you speak about the residential halls. One of the things that I'm aware of that our regional emergency management teams needed to think about where, if our first responders needed a place to stay, if they were potentially infected and didn't want to go home and get that send that to their families, you all stepped right in to help that. Maybe you can speak to that a bit.
Happy to do that. I think the NKU has always prided itself as being a steward of place. We recognize our responsibility to this region and its needs. And so this was just another way for us to help make that happen. And when we were approached to say, would there be possibility of space for first responders who, as we know, are putting their lives in danger and being exposed to the virus and didn't want to harm their own families. If there was a place they could go, because we had some adjustments that we could make in housing, we had another facility, Honors House, that was not occupied. And of course, BB&T Arena that was possibly still vacant because of the fact that we had to make adjustments to our schedule. So we offered those two sites for our first responders. If they needed a place to stay back. And of course, with St. Elizabeth, our BB&T Arena as hospital third space for either COVID patients or post-COVID recovery as the case may be. And so again, another way that we could say we're members of the community, and if there is a need, somehow we can find a way to help.
Well, that's what Northern Kentucky tends to do, and especially the university stepped up, and thank God it wasn't needed the way that was planned for, but that's why you plan, right?
Absolutely.
Well, you just went through graduation, and you're probably getting questions every other hour as to what does it look like in the fall when you're trying to, the economy talks about opening up, but universities are a big part of that. What can you share with us?
Yeah, Judge, I will say something about commencement though, because it was just this last Saturday. Amongst all the decisions that we had to make, this was probably the hardest one for me to do, because I look forward to this day every year. I mean, and every semester. It's such a delightful aspect of the work that we do. I get to shake every graduate's hand, see the excitement on their face, not just their face, but their family and friends. As you know, 50% of our students are first in their families to go to college. So, boy, I mean, that's a big milestone. Yeah. That's a huge milestone. And to end their college journey with us in this sort of way, I think it must have been so disheartening and disappointing. And I only know that we had to take the best interest of them and the health and safety of everyone. We couldn't do it in BB&T, which was what we would normally have done it. But we did have a virtual commencement. I did wear the academic regalia, and we did that. I did the proverbial conferring of the degrees. I think it was an impactful ceremony, even though it was virtual. Many of the students and their families sent a quick note, say thank you, at least was something. We had invited everybody back in December to say that, assuming everything goes well, we will have the commencement and we'll have our May graduates. As I told them, you will never be forgotten. The May graduates are the ones that survived the pandemic and they finished strong. So you will be forever etched in our and so you'll have that. But you're right. Now the pivot is to the future. And I made a couple of comments about this to the campus and to the community writ large. So while we were focused on the tactical, we are a learning organization. And so part of our DNA is what have we learned about ourselves? What have we learned about our students and their expectations? And what have we learned about the region and its needs and expectations during this crisis? So as we think about fall, let's not just talk about an operational decision that has to be made, but let's talk about how can we continue to become a more student-ready, regionally engaged institution. That's our vision, right? We want to be known, nationally known as being responsive to all kinds of students, regardless of their background. And we want to be further engaged with this region because those two things go hand in hand. And so let's take this opportunity to imagine our operations. On an operational side, we're obviously considering, and we'll have some more information very soon, some sort of a hybrid context, right? There'll be some face-to-face interaction, but obviously some virtual online interaction. We have to talk about all the online activities. I've shared with you, Judge, that NKU is like a mini city, right? We have housing, we have dining, we have events, we have athletics, we have performances. We have multi-generations of individuals, all the way from preschool kids who come and dropped off at our early learning center, all the way to seniors coming to take an extra course or sitting in on a performance by our students. So we have the full range of folks that come in. We have a Starbucks on campus. We have all these kinds of things that are going on, and that it's not just an easy switch. And I'm mindful of how much is at stake when we do this. We want to do it in a safe and responsible way. Fortunately, we've got great community partners, not only all 3 county judge executives, the Northern Kentucky Public Health Department, and of course, St. Elizabeth. So we're taking the approach, healthy at NKU. What does that look like? And how do we create a proposal and a plan that puts people at ease and still gets back to what they really want? As you know, I'm a little biased, but we have a beautiful campus. Mm-hmm. I want people to engage and feel the vibrancy of that place. So, but we want to do it in a responsible way.
Well, and I know that as these pieces come together, you're doing it in a very thoughtful way along with your board. And I know you just had your some of the key meetings here this week, or will be having those this week. And I appreciate your time with me to challenge and update us as to what you have to deal with on a daily basis with the thousands of students who call NKU home and will in the future know that that's their alma mater. So appreciate the time today, and be safe, and thanks for all your leadership.
Judge, can I make one last comment?
Absolutely.
So, one of the questions about the fall is that there are many students out there, potential students of NKU and others, who are sort of waiting on the sidelines and deciding what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Should I wait? Should I take a gap year? Should I do this? Should I do that? And I completely understand those and their families and some of the challenges they may be facing. But what I want to leave with those individuals is the following thing. And I'm using my disciplinary background now to make this point. In 2008, we went through the Great Recession. We're probably in that sort of situation now,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, and we don't know how that's going to last. But lessons that we've learned from the Great Recession is the following thing. Number one, the only group that had the lowest unemployment rate during the recession was the group that had a college degree. And 5 years later, when we emerged from the recession, the group that had more people employed than before the recession was college graduates.
Yeah.
So what I tell potential parents is, no matter what happens, and we understand there are some challenges, in NKU education, it's worth its weight in gold. It's a return on investment that like no other. And especially in uncertain times, it's probably even the best thing to do as a sort of insurance that folks have. So what I will say to all those folks that are out there saying, this is your university. We will never leave our commitment to serving you well and providing you with an outstanding educational experience. So no matter what happens, we're going to be here for a long time, and we look forward to seeing all of you again.
I think it's well said that these are the times to stay focused and add education to your opportunity future. I think it's so well said. And wish you the best of luck as you go through the rest of these tough times in leading a great university.
Thank you, Jed.